Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and Ko-Fi link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Arma Shertha, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Todd Wassel, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, John Case, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. And now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Sorry, Stevie, I'll keep cutting you off. I was kind of...
no, I talk too much. Go ahead.
I understood what he was saying. When Nathan was kind of like being a little smug, though, when the guy didn't know the scientific method. You could hear his laughter and see him smiling as he says, so you don't know what it is. You want me to tell you?
Well, that guy was a jerk. You know, the guy that Nathan, wasn't that Patrick? Wasn't Nathan and Patrick in that video? Can't remember.
Correct. What was funny about that, Stevie, was after the guy, after Nathan breaks down the scientific method, the guy says, "That's what I just said." No, it wasn't.
No, those guys,
they're delusional.
They lie. He's typical baller. Oh my God. It's so funny sometimes.
See, there's something like that, like what Whitsitt was doing with Nathan. You know, basically with the flat Earth label, but you come out, you say kind of other rhetoric, right? And then Nathan confronted him on it, and he said, and to button it up with Whitsitt saying what he's putting forth is what the contention of the globe would be. But starting it off with, that's his own, to speak it as his own contention. That's odd. That's odd psychology there, what Whitsitt was doing there. You know?
No, run that by me again.
Yeah, Nathan, the other day when you were talking with Whitsitt, you know how he started off, he's supposedly he's on the side of the plane, isn't he? I mean, I don't know enough about it, but that's what I have heard. But to start off his argument with the way he did, but then when you pinned him, Nathan, he's saying that what he was saying was the globe's contention to what you were saying. And that's how he backed out of taking accountability for what he was saying. I just thought it was an odd maneuver on his part.
No, but that's Whitsitt. He's been doing this forever. As soon as you trap him in the corner, he'll say, "Oh yeah, I agree. It's a great argument. I'm not saying it's not."
What kind of man is that?
A double-speaking clown? A guy that has no backbone?
Well,
a guy that's in delusional world and has beliefs and doesn't have a knowing? Like I said to my son last night, he goes, "Oh, you guys on that show are all stupid and you believe the earth is flat." I said, "No, son, you believe the earth is a sphere. We know the earth is flat." Big difference.
Well, Whitsitt's got followers, he's doing this with followers. Your son's, I assume he's just growing up in the school system, Neil,
My
That
son's
sucks that
homeschooled. He's not growing up in a school system. He's been homeschooled since he's 9.
he's caught on to the globe side, though, huh?
Oh yeah, he is. He just he can't let it go. I think he falls in line with consensus, and once he gets a proper understanding what the scientific method is, then he might come to terms. And these
Why don't you
videos
have
he
him join the
watches,
show? Why don't you have him join the show, Neil?
came on a few times. He spoke to QE. He spoke to Adam. He's been on.
Let me
He's got a
talk to
good
him. I'll set him
understanding.
straight.
Listen, he's got a good understanding of that whole quantum mechanics, but he loses it when he has them in 3D space, 4D
But
space,
even the
whatever it
3D
is.
space needs, even that 4D space needs a horizontal plane.
4D space.
That's absolutely correct, Duncan. Even 4D space-time needs a horizontal plane of reference. That's correct.
Well, I'll set him straight for you, Neil. You just send him right over.
Yeah. Nah, it ain't gonna happen. I dropped it on him the other day. I said, you still need a horizontal plane for that. Every measurement you're taking, all your orbits.
Yeah, that's also correct.
You're gonna need a flat Earth for that.
Yeah.
You're going to use a flat Earth for that.
Yeah. That's a much better phraseology.
Sorry, I'm in a very noisy store.
Okay. You, a globe believer, will need a flat Earth for that. That's correct.
What, for the orbits, right?
For almost everything claimed to be proving a globe, Neil. I don't know if I've ever seen an exception yet. Have you? Give me an exception.
I haven't seen one. That's why I think this is so killer. I mean, why do we got to go anywhere else? Let's just stay right here and plant our flag.
Yeah, we will be throughout the whole of this year. And then next year, will something else will come along and supersede this? Not supersede it. That's not the right word. Offer it up in assistance. Not like we've superseded the Black Swan, is it? Although, in a way, it kind of does. When I'm saying that was our journey to get to here, we've had to debunk the globe and say, oh, the globe doesn't work. And now, moving into the future, we're saying, don't necessarily go to the extent of learning how the globe doesn't work. It's not needed if you know it is measured flat.
It's an immovable foundation for you to go forth on, Nathan, no matter what you choose to do from here. The fact that it's measured flat just has to be conceded from all people, because the step one observation of it all is that the earth presents itself as flat. It presents itself in all observations as flat. Right? Nobody can say otherwise. Where does it present itself otherwise? So even on observation, you've got that nailed. Wherever you go from here, Nathan, is, you have a rock solid foundation to build on.
It's been reiterated by Divergent Droid, who's joined the chat. I don't know if he's away from his mic or whatnot, but he's typed it instead of saying it. Earth is measured flat by everyone, full stop. They need a flat horizontal baseline for all of their measurements, from elevation above sea level to celestial navigation to deriving latitude to orbital mechanics, open brackets, which actually do not exist because they would violate the second law of thermodynamics, all require a horizontal flat plane.
Droid's number one.
Well said, DD. Hey, but Nathan, just look at that journey we took to get here. It seems like everything just fell in line perfectly. I should say from the Black Swan on, correct?
I don't know. I think from figuring out the first step for us was actually quite a good step because we all initially learned what the scientific method was. So we'd all figured out that we'd been lied to, but then we figured out as a next step how we'd been lied to. It's the old how, what, where, when, who. You know, all these questions are what will be asked upon finding out that you've been deceived about almost anything. It's also the fundamental basis of any good news story. Those are the main key elements. But how was what we found out first. How did they put us on a ball? Well, they've got to convince us that what they were saying when they were telling us was absolutely empirical. And they did it with science. They just lied. So that was our first step. Black Swan, that's the death nail. That's the final nail in the coffin for the globe. Because their assertion requires geometry to be asserted. Boats going over horizons, buildings being blocked by physical Earth curve. Black Swan debunked that. So that's the end of the Earth curve globe assertion in terms of their physical claim to have demonstrable proof of us being on a sphere. That's the end of their claim to be physical proof. What else do they have? Pictures of Earth from space? Nope. That's it. So Black Swan marked the end of the globe in no uncertain terms. Moving forward beyond that, it's how do we best put people on the path of enlightenment that we have trodden as not being the best path at all, far from it. That path is to reiterate our affirmative position with stone cold facts as a starting point. Earth is measured flat, summarizes that in the best possible way.
So Nathan, are you saying they blinded us not with science, but with pseudoscience, disguised as science?
That's what pseudoscience is. That's redundant, but yes.
Yeah, I realized that when I said it.
Yeah, they just told us they'd got science and they hadn't. And we've been trained to understand that science was an empirical method proving things, which it is. So they just lied about having it. That's really all the trick was.
Nathan, there's a few things that you do on your videos when you, like the video that you put out yesterday, right? And you had the clips of the astrophysicist on there getting interviewed. You had the clip of the, I guess he was a physicist instructor at a college getting interviewed. There's things like that that video that you put out yesterday was very, very good. And I mean this by if I were new to this information and I stumbled across that video, it would have made an impact. And I think it was because you had the way that you presented it. First of all, your language was nice. You hammered it home just right with, there was no emotion involved in it. Very impactful to a viewer though. And it's things like, when you put a picture of the globe Earth, and then you have the vacuum of space next to it, and you move on, and you're talking about something like gas pressure. But when you wave your mouse pointer in space and you say the availability of gas would fill all of this area, it really puts a visual on what you're saying. It's impactful with the visual aid that, because it really sounds just like it caught the physicist in that clip that you put out yesterday when he's asked, how can you have gas pressure without containment? It's just a blank stare. And then they want to walk away. They really don't want to address that. What about all this volume of what you call space out here? There's no explanation for that when you point to it like that. The grand aspect of what we're really talking about. This vast, infinite space in this tiny little oxygen maker, right? It's supposed to be containing all that
That's why.
with no
That's why I
explanation.
love that. That's why I love gas pressure without containment. The way Nathan lays it out, and I agree, that is impactful. If somebody's just watching that, I mean, their eyes are going to be open to that, and they're going to start questioning.
That's QE's argument. I mean, that's his baby. And, me giving it padding and giving it colour doesn't change the argument and how strong it is. And the genesis of that argument is QE telling all of us about that argument, right? And his story began with that argument when he had it put to him before he became a flat earther. So it's an important question. How can you have gas pressure without a container? The answer is you can't.
Mhm.
Space is fake as a consequence of that answer. We haven't gotten out of space. There is no sky vacuum. It's absurd. But their whole religion is based around that idea of us having a sky vacuum.
Measured flat is very soft. Gas pressure without containment, you're going to get concession on the gas pressure thing. They're going to wiggle. That's why the measurement thing is such a good concrete foundation with this, in my opinion, going forward. It's nice. You're already getting concessions, man. Great. It's effective right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, the first person to be conceding that was that mathematician guy, Matthew Learns,
Mm.
off the back of, admittedly, QE had put that into some of his presentations, but it really was 10th Man that drove that home as much as QE wants to take credit for it. There's plenty of credit for QE. But, 10th Man deserves the credit for that because he pushed that argument for a year and a half, 18 months or so, till we all got drilled in it and understood it. And the evolution of that argument is to say Earth's measured flat. Because it is.
I remember
Yes.
he was leaking it out during the free show.
You remember what coming out in the pre-show, Neil?
He was leaking all that information out during the pre-show, little by little.
Who, Matthew Learns? Oh, 10th. Yeah, 10th was leaking it out as he was buying the books. He spent thousands on nautical books, didn't he? Navigation books. Same goes for the argument that I will take credit for it being my argument because I put all the pieces together. But the premise of outer space, the juxtaposition between aliens from outer space and the reality of our world expanding into the new worlds that we know and understand that were discovered in outer space beyond the horizon, that outer space that's had its meaning changed, that demonstrable, provable existence of reality as we know it, as is documented in history, provable, puts a exclamation mark at the end of the argument rather than a question mark. Could there be more lands beyond Antarctica? Is how that argument gets phrased at the moment. I'm going to stamp that out. No need. Draw a conclusion at the end of that argument. Earth was navigated flat. Earth was discovered with space, outer space being the area beyond the horizon, and what was discovered in the outer space, new worlds. That rewire cognition much? Because it should. That's the facts of the history. Now show me how many people are living and colonising Mars. None. Yeah, but plenty of people colonised the new worlds, didn't they, as we discovered them, as we charted the world flat. There's no soil in the sky. The sky is not a vacuum. This whole notion of having more up there where we can't go is utterly absurd.
No soil in the sky. I love it.
There's a logical aspect to that as well, but it's outfield a little bit for the topic though, because when we go up, what organic earth elements reach those heights? So as we go up, there's only so many, less and less element organic to the earth is in that higher delta. I mean, you're not going to find gold up there. But for things to exist very, very high, like the celestial bodies, it's just such a mystery. It's so unknown. But to say that earth elements exist in those heights, like soil, that require things like oxygen's not even that. water, things like that. It's a very strange concept to think about looking up at the celeste. And I mean, I can see how men would have always looked up, but we're arrogant men to think that that is of what we're made of. Like the sun has to be something we know of, like, oxygen, water, that it's a fire or light as we know it. It's just such a mystery.
Yeah, you
Anybody
can't have that.
saying that they're doing things like flying through it is just so loosely arrogant.
That whole notion of mystery is something that you've got to lock that out. If you're trying to control people, you've got to lock that down. You've got to have answers to everything. You can't have answers to some stuff and not other stuff. The stuff that you're answering should be stuff that you're creating. In the same way, in a legal context, you don't ask questions that you don't already know the answer to. Or you ultimately don't allow your subjects, the people, to do that either. Don't let them ask questions that we haven't already given them the answers for. They need to know what the sky is. We need to tell them. They don't need to be trying to figure it out because we don't know either. Because that opens the floodgates to all sorts of questions. If you're questioning one thing,
Mm-hmm.
the things that you've already got answers for that you know are true because the television tells you so, you might question those also if you're questioning something else, because then you're just in a mind to question stuff. That's no good. You'll lock that down.
Yeah. Talking to one of the Globers, it was when I asked specifically, do you need explanation for all of the voids of your questions? In
The
other
answer is
words, I
yes.
mean, it's around a fear of an unknown element, and the unknown is fearful. So explanations will work to fill the void, whether they're true or not. And that seems to be kind of people like to be in the know. I guess it's a comfort in a way, but it's by far not necessarily any truth to it. It's just more of a comfort, like a hamburger,
Yeah, and when
you
we take
know?
that away, what's the opposite of that? Pain. That's why we say
Mm,
share your pain. Because not having your comfy
hmm
hamburger of an explanation of why the sky is blue or what the sun is leaves you with pain, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's odd, man. People.
Am I going into a different server today?
Nathan, you were
Yes.
supposed to meet with us earlier, remember?
What?
You were supposed to meet with us earlier. You
Was
missed
I?
it.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Yes.
My bad.
First you meet with us, then we discuss it, and then we'll go from there. Okay?
Okay, we'll do that afterwards then, or tomorrow, or whenever you tell me to.
Try tomorrow at about half an hour before you start. Okay?
No worries.
Or 15 minutes at least.
Okay,
Okay, we'll talk then.
my bad.
That's all
Hold
right.
on. Why is Righteous dictating what's going on?
He's organising stuff for me. He's very gracious to do so. Let's be nice to him.
I'm just breaking his chops a little bit.
Anyway, what's on the docket for today? Anybody got a video we need to be covering? Take that as a no.
Boy, do we miss 10th Man, huh?
Yeah, nobody's digging us out videos.
Well, somebody sent me something. They said they only watched a minute of it. They just said they liked the title of the video. So I don't know if it's going to be good or bad. I haven't seen it, but I can post it in Skype.
Yeah,
You
that's
guys
so
make
good.
your own decision.
Nah. I mean, nah. I'm pretty sure
Right,
Brian
that's
sent me
what I
something
was
actually over the weekend. Oh, it's all stuff that's like he's an expert in. Great circle routes and planes over a plane. Both Brian subjects, right? He's either given me those so that if I do them without him here, he can call me on all the stuff I get wrong. Or I've got to do him with him here, right? Rum lines, great circles, planes over a plane. This is very much Brian subjects. To be fair, They're going to be, aren't they? He's going to pick his specialist stuff, isn't he? He's going to want to shine if he's going to be talking about a video or responding to a video. Okay, so we might cover one of those. We'll see.
Rum lines are is it like a plimsoll line?
Rum line? I don't know. Now you've said that, it makes me question what I thought it was, because you're questioning it.
Yeah, I remember the plimsoll line that Anthony brought up, and it talks about where the sea level presents itself on the boat.
No, I don't think that is what it is, but we'll have to wait and find out if Brian does join us. The other one, let's just see who this videographer is in case we do this one. New Horizon TV. Does Earth's rotation affect the aeroplane's speed and flight time? Oh, well, that's not Brian's expert subject. That's mine. Not that I want to be a
Oh my goodness. Sorry, you just reminded me of something, Nathan. Neil deGrasse Tyson is at it again, talking about football and trying to link it to science. I'm going to go dig it out and see if I could find it.
Okay, I mean, maybe dig that out for tomorrow. We've got a couple already, actually, Neil. One that Brian can cover.
Yeah, I'm not talking about to go over it for today, but you got to hear this nonsense that he was talking about.
Be very surprised if it's nonsense, as in Neil deGrasse Tyson's typically pretty good at magic tricks. He's a skilled magician, so you're hard pushed to catch him out, actually. You'd be surprised. As we go through his videos, we can highlight the problems in the rhetoric. That's probably one of the reasons I like Tyson. I can highlight issues in the rhetoric as the rhetoric stands if it's coming from Tyson. Now, he also knows the flaws in the rhetoric and knows how to be a lot more subtle about how he orders things like Coriolis effect to give off the impression he wants to give off without necessarily deviating too far from what Coriolis really is. And that does take a lot of skill. So, my hat's off to Tyson in that regard. He's got to know his stuff really, really well and remain charismatic as much as he knocks his opponents for that, or claims that he wouldn't debate a flat earther for that reason. But when it comes to twisting the Coriolis description into a convoluted but yet reasonably follow-alongable rhetoric, he's good at that, I think.
Well, it is difficult to be ambiguous, but still have people visualize it in their minds. That's probably the hardest thing to do.
Exactly. You can come along after Neil deGrasse Tyson's detailed a bit of Coriolis effect, and you can put an animation to it. I mean, I would like to. I don't want to sound like I admire the guy, but I do. In terms of, if you could picture that magician without the magic, in other words, all of the charisma and the way of putting it with magical words that can have a nice cartoon go along with them, but it's not lies. If you imagine that, that's what I would like to do. In other words, I would like to hope that if someone came along and listened to me describing various aspects of things that we discuss on the show, that you could put a little cartoon alongside it and follow along, if it wasn't simple enough to just follow along with the words. But that's what people do with Tyson. They'll take his words, they'll put a little animation next to it for the really dumb audience members that can't follow along with what he's saying. But that means that you end up with concepts like Coriolis being reasonably digestible. And you're not going to get the animation prior to him saying this stuff. It's not like he's doing his spiel along to the animation. Far from it. Yeah, good. We've got a couple of videos and maybe a Neil deGrasse Tyson video tomorrow. And maybe I'll toddle along to a different server. We'll see how it all goes. It's going to be a fun week.
Nathan, looks like Sensual Goat posted a video that Planet Peterson responded to you on.
Which one's Planet Peterson? Is he a big YouTuber?
Right.
Say again? Who's Planet Peterson? You'll have to remind me. We cover so many people. His name is familiar. I know we've made a response to him.
Looks like he is a high school teacher, and he said, "I don't give a crap," when you informed him of his use of fallacies. And then he made a response video. It's in the main chat.
Is he worthy of? I mean, my general standard. Thank you. Who was that was just talking? Duncan. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, great. He's covering me, right? If he's covering a response to a response, that's going to get confusing really quick. Unless it's somebody noteworthy, as opposed to just some random that somebody stuck in the Discord. Or like, what we're covering today. You know what I mean? Does he have a high level of importance? Given the fact I can't remember who he is, I'm probably going to go with no.
He is a
Agreed. I don't
teacher.
recognize him either.
I can't remember which one he is. I always think he's the guy that I've got on the thumbnail standing next to the sun, but that's Johnny something or other, so it's not him.
I'll look over it this evening and see if it's worth responding to.
See, if it's got a load of substance in it, then great. However, if it's just some random that's done a response to a response, it's like, that can get really easily confusing really quickly, in my experience. Check if you put a link to my video, that's all I care about. If we've responded to him and he's done a response back, all I ask of the people who do that is put a link to the video, that's it. So people can see originally what was said. That, and it helps me in the algorithmic love we do not receive from YouTube, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, it means that if there is actually a response out there, people can click on the link and go, what was actually said? Okay, well, maybe we'll do Jordan Peterson another day.
Maybe we should make it clear to the people that we're responding to that they need to answer the housekeeping questions in any response video they do.
I don't feel obliged to tell them what to do. I'll correct them, and that's it. I mean, I don't. Literally, my expectations from them are very, very low. Put a link to my video. That's it. You've had people come and comment, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. You've had algorithmic love from YouTube because people have come into your video, increased the numbers, and left comments. Can't ask for much more algorithmically, right? Okay. Well, for my whatever I've put into responding, hour of time, let's just say, all I ask in return is you put a link to my video. Well, when I put that to the audience, it's because in reality, we get no assistance from the algorithm, none. But for the guy who comes, what's the practical use for it? Someone comes, sees somebody calling me wrong, listens to their arguments, and go, well, I only got to see about 3 minutes of their video because it was all hacked up with them telling me how wrong they were. And while their arguments seem reasonable, it would be nice to cross-reference it. And then there's a link for you to do so. That's it. Not much to ask. As for answer the housekeeping, nah. Huey does that all the time. Do this. He did it with that deception detective. Maybe he could put a case together for the Globe. Why? Is that his bag? He's not an anti-flat earther. You know, fair enough when you charge the numpties who are on our opposing side with things like that. That's perfectly reasonable. They do it to us all day long. Again, whether or not they do it in response or whether or not they conform with that and whether or not they say that because we haven't, that makes us wrong or whatever it is, whatever tactic they're employing. You know, it's tit for tat in that regard. But as for Random Joe, Deception Detective, or whoever else, who were we talking about? I forgot who we were talking about. Whoever we're talking about at the moment, I don't want to tell them what to do.
Planet Peterson.
Say again?
Planet Peterson.
Planet Peterson. Right. Yeah, I don't care what you do. Share your pain, you know. But literally, as you can probably tell, I hardly remember their names most of the time. What they think after the fact is inconsequential. I forget about them immediately after the show's finished. And I haven't thought about them preemptively because I've been provided the video most of the time. There are a rare occasion where I will stick a video up and pick one out that I happen to have come across, normally because I'm trying to avoid a subject, and then it comes up anyway.
Did he put a link to your video in? Because Matthew Learns so far has been the only one to do that, hasn't he?
Yes and no. Matthew Learns did a response video on a channel that had about a couple of thousand subscribers, rather than on his whatever he got 90,000 subscriber channel that we responded to. And yes, he did put a link in his tiny little channel that made absolutely no difference whatsoever, and nobody was going to watch.
So far, nobody's done it.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. You guys are talking about Planet Peterson, the guy that made a response video to Nathan Oakley. Mic check, mic check.
Yeah, that's what we're
Yes,
talking about.
we're talking about it.
Okay, wasn't sure my mic was working. Yeah, the video last night was hilarious, man. One of the things he said was, oh my gosh, just 1 second. I don't know enough to point out specific errors in what he's talking about, was one of the statements he said about Nathan. Yeah, he went on about evolution. Evolution was proven, he says, by George Lemaitre because he was doing science. He discovered evolution by doing science. He also mentioned horizon is the hump of the earth. It's the sun going behind the hump of the earth. He said, I know it's a funny thing to say, but he called horizon hump of the earth. What else he said? Yeah, something about curvature.
Can you pull out some timestamps? Because it sounds like if it's like...
It was hilarious. I couldn't believe what I was listening to last night, man. He kept on going about opposite rotations of the stars. He's like, oh, you guys are so stupid. The stars are rotating opposite. How can you understand that? If you're looking the other way around, it's like counterclockwise. And if you look in the north, it's a clockwise. Oh, I'm sorry. It might be different, but it's like one of those things. If you're looking this way, it's that way. If you're looking that way, it's this way. I mean, it was a trip listening to the dude last night. And he was clearly hurt. He was clearly hurt with Nathan's video. He was at unrest, man. He was moving around and he was restless and he didn't know what to say. I just couldn't believe he was making a video live. If he was breaking the video down, Nathan's video live, and that's what it was. He did edit it a little bit, but he did it honestly and he did it live, and he was clearly hurt. And he said he didn't want to talk to Nathan on his platform because he knows Nathan mutes people. But, yeah, man, he went on the same shit. But he said he wanted to talk to you about evolution. He's like, oh man, I'll talk to him about evolution anytime. I can talk about evolution anytime. So Nathan, if you want to talk about evolution, we can talk about evolution. But the whole thing was a trip, man. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you told me because, I definitely don't want to respond to that Mighty Mush because that would be very, very confusing to watch. So it's got us responding to him responding live, although edited, to his reaction to us pulling apart his video. It just gets confusing really fast. It's on the borderline of that with what you discussed at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you were here, Mighty Mush, but they were talking about mind shock. So QE's responding to Mind Shock responding to a debate I did. So for QE to do it, it's right on the edge. He can just about get away with it. If I was responding to a debate that someone's responding to me debating, it gets confusing. Yeah, you just can't do it. So I'm glad to have found out from somebody exactly what the content was, because that puts me off responding. However, if there are timestamps and you can go, right, at this point, excluding all aspects of what you've said and he's responded to, he says X in this timestamp, then it's just us again responding to specific things like him saying, you're just turning around, what, like clockwise, counterclockwise, that's relative direction, yeah, that's our point, idiot. Right, that's worthy of a response, but then you can quickly move on to the next timestamp. Oh, right, well, this guy who proved evolution did science. Oh, excellent. So what was the naturally observed phenomena? What was the hypothesis, the cause and effect relationship with an independent and dependent variable? What was the name of the experiment? How many people validated it? We can go through all of that with his claim that evolution is proved with science. Wonderful. People in their live reactions. He's obviously fairly new to this. He's obviously
I'm sorry. He said George Lemaitre discovered Big Bang by doing science.
Oh, God.
I couldn't fucking believe it, man.
Oh, dear.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep. Sun is a ball of plasma, hydrogen, helium. How can you not know that? How can you not know? Sun is a hydrogen and helium.
More importantly, did he put a link to my video?
I'm not sure, man.
That's all that
And he
matters.
also said something, he said something like, "You have to assume everything. You have to." He said, You have to assume everything to some degree."
Oh yeah.
And he kept implying dome all the time. He kept throwing dome on flat earthers, and he kept calling all flat earthers idiots about 100 times in a video. And he kept saying dome. You guys keep talking about this dome. Well, nobody. This dude did mention a dome, but he kept implying that flat earthers are constantly calling this dome.
So it's riddled with straw man stereotypes, ad hom fallacies. Love it.
All the time. Yep, that's all he was doing. But it was a good laugh and worth a listen, in my opinion. Maybe not for you, Nathan. You don't have to break it down. It's not worth your time, but it was funny. It was funny enough to listen to the whole show. I'll put it that way.
Good evening.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. If you're unfamiliar with Arthur, subscribe today. If you're Indian, especially, as he does most of his stuff in semi-English, semi-Indian. You'll pick a few words out if you're English, but generally speaking, he's reacting to some of our Indian anti-flat earth counterparts who have substantially worse beards than our friend Arthur, I might add. How's it going, Arthur?
Great. All good.
Very informative. So check him out, Arthur B. Flat. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Negative.
The boat's going over it today, yeah? The buildings being blocked by it?
Aristotle.
I was just told in the pre-show
Aristotle.
that that's not the case. Somebody just told me in the pre-show that what somebody we responded to us and asserted that there's a hill getting in the way. It was phrased in a very bizarre way. Well, how is it phrased again, Mighty Mush?
Yeah, Planet Peterson calls it a hump of the earth.
Hump of the earth. If the earth was
Literally, hump of the earth. He said it might be weird to call it that, but that's what it is. His own words. Verbatim.
Well, then there should be a measured distance then, right?
Yeah, I was about to do the black swan, but with hump of the earth in place of physical geometric sphere edge limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the earth. You know what I mean? Just insert hump of the earth in place. So if the earth was...
He gets lost when you get into your 1.22 times the square root. He's like, what the hell is he talking about?
Really? When we went through their earth curve maths, their assertion that he made when asserting that there's a hump of the earth getting in the way of boats and buildings, we went through his globe maths and he asked, what the hell are they talking about?
He genuinely gets lost when he talks like that, yeah.
Oh my
when you
God.
explain the perspective hijacking, when you go into your perspective hijacking, he's like, what? He makes a face like, what the hell is he even talking about? He genuinely gets lost, man.
He gets lost in his own rhetoric. 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is the distance to the horizon he's claiming is a hump to get in the way of stuff. He doesn't know his own bloody rhetoric. It's pathetic. Why are you out here? You dumbo. Doesn't know his own rhetoric.
Yeah, that mathematics gives you a horizon below surface level. Yes.
Indeed it does. If he doesn't understand that the 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is his own begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, say it right there and then in the video. Earth curve mathematics? What's he talking about? Those are Earth curve mathematics, you dumbo. That's your curve maths. What do you want? We're pulling apart your claim that Earth's got a sphere edge. A hump in the way? It's difficult to follow along with your own rhetoric. Clearly. Oh, why do these people come out of this? Dunning-Kruger. I do remember covering him now. Dunning-Kruger. People don't know what they don't know. And when they don't know what they don't know, they think they know a lot. That's Dunning-Kruger.
Well, the funny thing is, Earth curve mathematics require a flat Earth to calculate the geometric horizon. So the Earth curve mathematics, the Earth can't curve, or it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's the Al-Biruni methodology of deriving radius. First, you measure the height of the mountain off a flat plane, and you do that by getting two different measurements and do the trig to calculate the difference to give you the height. Once you've got the height off a flat plane, off a flat Earth, because you're doing angles, then you can go up the mountain, and then you can acquire your horizontal plane of reference with your eye level and calculate the difference between the two. The difference between surface level, where you got the height of the mountain, Al Bruni that is, and eye level, can be calculated to give you the radial value, as shown in the mathematics given to you when it shows only the extrapolated out geometric horizon after the calculations Al Bruni performs in their depictions. So you have a flat surface for the height of the mountain being removed from the diagrammatical example, and what is left is a sphere dangling below a mountain that's now got a curved ground below it, below the mountain, that is. Suddenly the surface that he used to give him the height isn't flat anymore. And the difference in reality of the mathematics he's just performed is the difference between the surface level that he measured to give him the height and the eye level at elevation when he's on the mountain. End result, an inferred geometric horizon below surface level. Spot on, John. Let's shake things up a bit. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Yep, it's 3,000
Um,
kilometers
Where'd you get that measurement from?
from
That's
the
exactly
parallax, Samuel Rowbotham.
Okay, the problem with deriving the same surface that's flat and angles we use in celestial navigation, known as elevation angles, is that they're a very special type of angle. That is to say, your angle between an observed body can directly relate to its position on the ground at that time, at that specific time. But as it moves away from you, the star, that is, it will encroach upon the horizon and then disappear from view potentially. Well, if you're going to derive a height value, what are you suggesting? That it's going to crash into the horizon when it reaches zero? Because that's what your angle will give you in terms of an actual height. Eventually it's going to crash into the ground? Well, obviously it does not. But that methodology utilization of elevation angles doesn't mean you can get the elevation of the star, merely its position above the ground, determinable with an angle at any elevation. That is to say, if you go up at height and take a height of Mount Everest and then take your angle to the star with respect to your eye level, parallel to the ground, the angle will not change to that star. It will still reach and breach zero, that is the horizon, at the same time for both parties on the ground or up in Everest. If you could physically do that, which you couldn't, you'd be in rock. But you know what I'm getting at. If you went up in a hot air balloon and took a sextant measurement, your measurement and the guy on the ground's measurement are the same. Well, that can't be if you're getting the height of it. But the stars are a heavenly thing. I don't know what to say. That is part of their majesty, I think is the way Adam once phrased it. And do we know why? No, I don't know what they are. What I do know is anybody at any height can measure an angle to a star and based on the time of day in the almanac, look up where it's above. And you can do it for any star that's directly above you. You can look it up in the night sky and see what's directly above you at your zenith and look it up and it will match with a particular star at a particular time, providing it's a navigation star. But that methodology holds true. That star is going to be above your location at that specific time, which is why it's useful to navigate with it. If you know where they're going to be at what time, and we do. So therefore, utilization of an elevation angle measurement is very useful for navigating the Earth as a flat plane, which is exactly how it's been charted and mapped and discovered up until now. But as for finding the heights, finally come to my conclusion for you, Arthur, you can't get them.
Okay, so let's think of this thought experiment, let's say that. So you can come at a position on the ground when you are directly below a star, right? You can take the sun also. If the sun is directly overhead, that means elevation angle is 90 degree. It's in your zenith position, right? If we have another person at a certain known distance apart, let's say 10 kilometers away from us. From that position, he can measure the angle of elevation to the sun or the star, which is directly above my head. And by knowing the actual distance between the 2 points on ground, we can apply trigonometry, can we not, in order to find the actual height?
No, we cannot.
Stars do not
Why not?
obey our trigonometry.
Correct. Yes, you can draw out two triangles from two different locations and apply trigonometry to infer that you have the height, but you don't. So the same thing applies as I said earlier. If you're trying to get the height and somebody who's 1,000 miles away from you, and you've got a dude who's also got a sextant and is measuring 1/4 of a degree the difference between you and him with the sun, fine. But then there's a guy a couple of thousand miles away who can still see the sun, and he gets it a couple of degrees off the horizon just for simple math. Well, he works out the height as being very, very, very low to the ground, doesn't he? Well, it isn't. It's above you. Right above you. What about the guy watching the sun setting? Is it smashing into the horizon at your location because you're at its zenith? Is it on the horizon where you are? At 0 in the ground with you? Are you in the sun? Because that guy's that's where he's measuring it. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you can know its height.
First of all, we don't even know what the actual positions are, correct?
We know zenith position. We know where it is going to be a direct GP representation, ground position representation of what that sun or star is at that time. Where will it be above on the ground? That's what we know and have known for a very long time and can predict into the very, very distant future where they will be at what times. It's on a cycle. That's useful.
Okay, got it.
But it doesn't give us the
Got
height.
it.
That's it. We don't know the height from that. They, globe heads, can utilize their orbital motions and mechanics and Keplerian and Huygens assumptions of Venus and R values measured off a flat plane, I might add, to infer a distance, but they still need to assume scale. That's where Huygens comes in.
Yeah, so just to give you the context, I was being asked these same questions by a flat earther who seems to have come to the conclusion that the sun is 3,000 kilometers above. And I also gave almost the same answers or responses that you are giving right now. Still, I just wanted to know if this same thing can be handled in a better way, or if I can say something extra in addition to these points.
Just cite what an elevation angle is. There's a particular citation that describes how an elevation angle measurement is specifically an angle between your horizontal reference and a light in the sky, as opposed to a tool to acquire actual height above sea level. Now, I can't paraphrase it better than I've just done, but that's essentially what that particular citation from Merriam-Webster or whoever says, because that's what it is. An elevation angle measurement is not designed and has no practical application for knowing the height of a star or sun. It isn't used for that. It's not practically applied in that way, and it can't be derived to give you that. So in an inference that you can from a flat earther just makes the flat earther look stupid, because you can't.
It's a useful straw man to claim that. If you are a glober, they can latch onto that as a positive claim, and if they debunk it, then they think the globe's true.
Yeah, exactly. You can infer that your elevation angle measurement off a flat plane can then be used to insert an R value and say that you've confirmed your distance to the moon or sun by way of a flat earth elevation angle measurement to that particular light in the sky. And then compare and contrast that with a flat earth failure who doesn't get the right angle measurement because he's not smart enough to figure out whether the maths of a flat plane will give him a measurement of an angle that will match with your heliocentric assumption with an R value derived from a flat plane, putting things in motion and orbit that Kepler then gives you all of the values that can be scaled by use of Venus by Huygens as the same value of R measured off a flat plane of Earth. Well, should I have one more housekeeping question? Was there any more to mention on Planet Peterson, Mighty Mush? Any other amusing excerpts?
Man, it's worth to listen. He said a lot of shit. He used one of some dude's videos where he poured the 2 glasses of red wine or some red liquid, I don't know, and he took 1 glass on the other mountain, and he was saying something like, you see how the height of the other glass that he's looking from here, from this mountain, is always going to be lower than where you are, because Earth is a sphere. I don't know if you understood what I said, but it was literally like that, man. Like, he used 2 glasses, one on where he is on the mountain, and one is on the other mountain, like, I don't know, like a few miles away. And he filmed it from his side. And he showed that the glass on the other mountain is going to be lower than where you are because of the Earth's curve.
Because hashtag shit shrinks. Perspective. Really?
He said it was different. Like, yeah, man, like literally. Like, the dude is out there.
Yeah, stuff gets smaller and recedes towards the horizon as it goes into the distance. It's called perspective. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. And another thing, when you said something about Earth is measured, the dude literally agreed. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one sec. Go ahead, John.
How did he calculate the height again?
Off a flat plane.
I don't know. He didn't. He just used the visual field, I guess. He used perspective.
In the video he referenced, they would have referred to how high the mountains are at some point, wouldn't they?
I don't think he did that, man.
Just here's some
mountains.
mountains.
He was just talking about what you see. But at one point, he agreed, like when you said the Earth is measured flat, and he made a face like he got a little confused, but he kind of got it. And he was like, okay, yeah, I agree. Maybe the Earth is measured flat. But on the ground, when they're surveying it, they're only doing like small portions, like hundreds or a few thousand feet. So, and I'm going to say this verbatim again in his own words, it would be inappropriate to measure for curvature.
Oh, we're going to have to snip that out. He'll be the second one. Hold on, Mush. He'll have to have that trimmed out. That'll be the second time. So we've had Matthew Learns, the university teacher, say it. And we've had people like Zanuck say it. But it'd be good to have a few more lined up for clip. Yeah, it's measured flat. Yeah, I know it's flat. Yeah, it's so big it's flat. Blah, blah, blah. All of them basically conceding that Earth is measured flat. Yeah, because it is. And the more we get them to say it, the better. Because people in the audience will go, hang on, wasn't this being objected to 2 weeks ago? And now all of the globe Earth claiming opponents are saying and conceding that, yeah, of course it's measured flat. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Hopefully people will click to the genius that this is just declaring how Earth is actually measured. They are going to have to reference the same stuff we do, and it's measured flat, I assure you. That's because it is flat. Earth is flat. Even for your globe punting fundy, shout out to Refracted Curvature. He pointed this out a year ago. They will take a flat plane and put it in false dichotomy against you with your crappy flat plane claim because you've been given them from idiot sources in the flat Earth community that will fail instantly and have their use of a flat plane prove a globe. Well, they all use flat planes, right? Yeah. Let's just focus on that for a minute. So you are going to measure it flat here to claim you're proving a globe, right? Well, it'd be inappropriate to measure it curved. Yeah, it would, yeah. It isn't. What's that? You got an Earth curve calculator? What's this 1.2 times the square root? I've never heard of it. Yeah, we debunked it. That's your only physical claim of Earth curve measurements. That's it. That's your claim to physicality and proof of globeness. You haven't got it anymore. Black Swan. Meanwhile, everything's measured flat in reality. What, you got your Earth curve calculator and that's it, and then it's been debunked since 2020? Yeah, let's look at the actual measurements. We are not interested in your Earth curve calculator. It's not useful for anything anyway. It has no practical application. But people still build stuff, don't they? And navigate, don't they? And map stuff, don't they? Yeah, and it's all done flat. Excellent. We'll have to trim that out, Mush. If you can drop me a timestamp for when he says that specific concession about, yeah, well, it'd be inappropriate to measure it curvy.
I'll try to find it out.
There's no rush. We're not going to. Oh, no, I'm expecting it now, like today. Don't worry. But you know, if you can dig it out, that'd be helpful. We'll just ponder on that particular moment rather than a gaggle screw of listening to us responding to him, responding to me, responding to blah blah blah. Yep, gets confusing. Shout out to everyone in the chat.
I think that.
Oh, we got more. Go ahead.
Well, I think the flat Earth resolution loss calculator has a use in seeing how far you can see over a flat plane and how things disappear from the bottom up. I mean, it's useful for that.
So when we call the calculator the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is because, as just so eloquently described by refracted curvature, what you actually have in the form of the Earth curve calculator in name only is a resolution loss calculation of a flat plane. That's what it actually does. So if you want to know how far you can see based on angular limitations and just call it Earth curve, you can do it with that calculator. And a lot of the time it works quite nicely until you point out that, number one, the curve you're calculating for is a physical geometric limitation below the surface level. It suddenly makes no sense. When you point out that the mathematics takes place in an orthographic representation of the world that you can't exist in, it suddenly makes no sense. And when you point out that the way the calculation works in terms of what's actually being measured, it's a flat plane calculation that gives you the differential between surface level and eye level, both of which are level, one of which is the surface. And that's what you're measuring to give you an inference that there's an Earth curve below the surface level that you cannot see, that's presented in a side-on orthographic view that you cannot see also. Meanwhile, the horizon can be calculated out in terms of the angular limitation it presents you with. And that is what is actually being done in the Earth curve in name-only calculator. Perspective hijacking simplifies that description that was so eloquently given by John a moment ago. Well done, John. You're on fire today. Any more for housekeeping, or should we go to the chat for a little bit? See what people have got to say. Please share the show. 70 people watching. Great to get us up to 100 while we're live.
When is John not on fire? Has he ever cooled off?
Well, he's been very modest, you know. He's leaned into his position here on Flat Earth Debate, I would say. Initially, we were taking the mickey out of him when he was telling us that he'd got, obviously, a much, much higher standard than all of us on the panel currently, I believe. I actually don't know Arthur's background in education terms. Not that it matters. But, you know, we don't tend to lean on those things here. And after about 6 to 8 months of John being on the panel, and we were taking the mickey out of his accent one day, he then laid out what his actual education status was, and we're like, yeah, we're still going to take the piss out of you. You got a funny voice.
I'll tell you who's intimidated by him. Witsit.
Brian gets that too, right? He seems to take a lot of offence to it. So often when people are clearly smarter than you, people knock them down a peg is how we put it in the UK. Yeah, you want to knock them down a peg or two, right? Because they're a big smarty pants. Well, that's your own fear of somebody smarter than you when it comes to a perfectly reasonable person like John, who never leans on his educational credentials. But when they happen to be in the conversation, it's obvious to all around, okay, you're far better educated than I am. But that, for some people, is like, well, that's a bit... It makes you feel worse about yourself because you're less stupid than the person you're talking to, or more stupid, sorry, if you know what I mean. Well, some people can react to that in a way that makes them want to lash out at it or bring that person who's clearly better educated down to your level. So with Brian, we'll take the mickey out of him often when he's done something that clearly denotes a high degree of intelligence. Why? Well, smarty pants prick. I'm going to bring you back down to my level. Crabs in a bucket style. Make sense?
Yep. And I just disillusioned one person from Witsit's education, which he thought was education, and he was learning a lot from Witsit. And guess who that is? It's Caleb, that young chap we reviewed his debate with FTFE.
Yeah, that's his only problem, right, Flat Arthur?
No, but the guy is willing to learn. The points I made, exposing Witsit's double speak, he seemed to get that. And after he watched a few of the videos of Nathan, first of all, his own review, which he admittedly, so I was chatting with him on his X space, and I told him about Nathan reviewing his video. And he said that, yes, at that time, I may have left it thinking that you guys were being too harsh or too severe in our criticism. But actually, I did not have any answers to the points you guys were raising. Still, it made me uncomfortable, which is why I did not watch it. But that day, when I gave him a few points in like 5 to 10 minutes. He said that he's going to watch it again. And I sent him a couple of more videos of Nathan and Quantum Eraser exposing Witset's doublespeak, and his mind is blown. I'll just quote a small sentence that he said, "Man, I can't believe I was stupid enough to think Shitset was onto something." So he has also started calling him Shitset after listening to QE's couple of videos.
Oh, we've got to stamp that out, right?
That's the beginning of wisdom.
God, I wish I hadn't said that. Yeah, we're gonna have to stop doing that, right? Again, it's another inferred sign of weakness that we don't need to necessarily do. And if this is me and Quantum Eraser, right? We're distilling that attitude into our viewers, and it's just not a good attitude, right? If you've got the winning argument, let me give you an analogy that I got from Gordon Ramsay. Right, he's trying to educate this guy, this Scottish chef, and he's at his own bar, so he's in his own restaurant, and he's got his own barman that he pays quite a lot of money to stand behind the bar. And Gordon Ramsay orders both of them a scotch, and as he's ordering it, and the guy's pouring it, he says, "Can I have some ice in it?" And the barman looks at Gordon Ramsay and says, "No." Says, "Excuse me," he says, "I'm paying for this scotch. If I want ice in the scotch, put ice in the scotch." It's Gordon Ramsay, right? So when he says something to you, you know Gordon Ramsay is right. If you're the barman, you're on TV, and suddenly there's an impromptu moment where you're being asked for ice in a scotch. And the barman, in front of his own manager and in front of Gordon Ramsay, says, "This scotch doesn't have ice in it because it destroys the chemical compound and therefore the flavour that spent, whatever it is, 18 years turning into what it is. So, okay, yeah, you can put ice in it. It's obviously possible to do so, but it will destroy the chemical makeup of this particular scotch. So I would advise you just drink it. But that's just me. What do I know?" Right? And his example is to point out to the barman that sometimes you've got to have the insistence to know when you're right. And if you know what you know, don't be afraid to actually point that out to somebody, even if they're in opposition to you. Right? Well, I've forgotten what I was paralleling it with now. I'm just looking at my chat thinking, when am I going to segue back into the chat that I said I was going to do 5 minutes ago? Hello, chat. Please share the show. Why was I making that example?
You're paralleling it with Witsit.
I was asking Arthur. What's his example?
Okay.
No, but was your point that we should not be calling him names? Was that your whole point?
Exactly. When your point is as strong as the barman's, right, he doesn't need to call Gordon an idiot chef. That was my point. Thank you for reminding me. His point.
Oh, very good.
Okay, in that example,
So not right.
the barman's right, Gordon's wrong, but it doesn't seem that way on the surface. Does the barman need to make his point and then just serve the drink to keep his job? Yes. Now, would he be better off getting it wrong and putting the ice in? No, he would not. Sometimes you're in that position where you just are right, and you can express that in such a way that doesn't require him to call Gordon Ramsay Gordon the idiot chef at the end of the process. Well, we're training our audience to do that. And it's out of, did it after this, while we did the introspection show, right? A lot of that, and I try and use my own panel, so it's more intimate with the examples with Brian and with John earlier, right? To try and show to the audience, I'm not trying to open up my heart. I'm not, look at my sleep. I'm not doing that, right? I'm just trying to give the audience a bit of introspection when they do this also. I had it in the chat. I'll give another example that does use somebody outside of our group. I think you were there, Neil, in one of these chats on one of the Uncut and After shows. It might have been QE's stream. I can't remember which. There's a guy in there called Ken, and he's arguing the toss for Jaron's example and saying, water doesn't boil at 100 degrees in a microwave, therefore your scientific experiment and validity for calling Jaron out is wrong. Okay, fine. I don't mind taking the time to go through you with this, but you've got to be honest with me. That is to say, accept where you do and do not know things. Because it's inconsequential to me, I don't know this guy, Ken. But I'm more than willing to spend the time educating with him if he's honest. So when I say to him, do you understand the purpose of the scientific method? What is the point of doing it? Right. Now, obviously, if you know the answer to that question, you know the reason I phrased it that way. Because a lack of answer is very telling. It tells me your positioning, I already know this, by the way, of microwaves and water boiling misses the point of the argument, which is the purpose of the scientific method is to prove the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. Now, if you know that that's the point of science, then you recognize that telling me the methodology of trying to make the water boil so you can figure out what caused it to boil in nature is lost on you if you're trying to boil it with a microwave and failing and then saying science doesn't prove things. It means you don't understand the method. Hence my phraseology of the question to this guy, Ken. And his answer to me was, I've watched your show since 2019. Do you not think I know what the scientific method's for? No, Ken, I know that you don't know what it's for. You're telling me that a microwave debunks the method. Therefore, I'm not justified in attacking Jerem when he says science doesn't prove things. Yeah, I know that you don't know this, but because the guy, Ken, in this example, hasn't got the fortitude to admit he doesn't really know, he can't move on in his educational process. He can't learn what the purpose of the scientific method is, because as far as he's concerned, watching since 2009 in his mind means he doesn't have to confess that really he doesn't understand what the point of the scientific method is. Because he's got an argument that microwaves debunks it, because that's what Jaren's told him, or somebody has exampled. So, with people like that, it's the failure to acknowledge your own ignorance. If you don't know something and you're not willing to admit it, in fact, you're more than willing to allude to the opposite, how are you going to ever learn? You can't.
Exactly. So Caleb, when it's brought to his attention, he's got the ability to realize that he was wrong.
Wait,
Yes,
I mean, I wasn't
that's my
necessarily talking
whole
about
point.
Caleb, just talking about the audience in general. Go ahead, whoever that was, Arthur.
Yeah. I was saying that was my whole point, that I have seen that kind of an attitude from this guy. And because he was not aware that people are already exposing Witsit's doublespeak, he wanted to know more because he also is onto Witsit because of something Witsit said in his own stream regarding some of the arguments that Caleb presented in a recent modern day debate with Ozian. So there was this space after that event in which he was basically calling out Witsit for questioning him on his debating skills. And after that, when I pointed out that Witsit himself is a lying double speaker and Nathan and Quantum Eraser have exposed it so many times, he was more interested in listening to it. And after he has listened, he has come to the conclusion, which also I am guilty of, that there was a time 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I thought that what Witsit is saying and the other gang members are saying made a lot of sense. It takes time for you to realize that it is just rhetoric and there is no substance to it. Good that Caleb also realized it early on in his journey.
Oh, I fell for the Mickelson Morley too. It wasn't until I came to this platform that I started to understand, because the way it was being taught, very easy to understand. The way they broke it down, very easy to understand.
I sent him the 5-hour long video on Mickelson Morley that you guys did. I think it was on Quantum Eraser's channel, but he is too interested to come and talk to us guys and clear out all these misconceptions and false education which he has grabbed up and keeps spewing in his TikToks. And he's willing to turn the tables if need be. That's the attitude I'm talking about. He is concerned with the truth and not with people. He was very clearly saying that people do not matter to me, arguments do. So that's the kind of attitude that we promote, don't we?
I'm sure we will see him. He dropped me a line in, I can't remember which chat he was in. I happened to be in there and he was in there. I didn't recognise his screen name, but then it twigged after a few bits and back and forths that he was the guy you were talking about. And then he dropped me an email saying he wants to come on the show at some point. So yeah, I'm sure we will see an appearance of this Caleb guy at some stage.
Excellent.
Anyway,
I know that.
I'm going to say hello to some of the chat. Shout out Shatner's Bassoon, Price of Adam, Jeff, good to see you. Mike972, nice to have you all here. Divergent Droid doing a fantastic job, of course. Dan, Kim, nice to see you. Good to have you. Bible, you, good to see you. Rob the Truth, nice to see you as well. Who else we got in there? Oh, got messages from Bev getting getting timed out by the looks of things. Behave, Bev, if you're being naughty. Who else we got in there? Scroll my way down through some of these messages. Dank, nice to see you, my friend.
Well, Nathan, if you're going to do that with Witsit, then that's got to be with everybody. We shouldn't call Bev an idiot or anybody an idiot. Our argument should stand alone.
There he is. There's that Ken guy.
I
He's the
agree.
guy in our chat right now. There's the guy I was talking about. Ken Long Lois, if that's how you say your name. Yeah, thank you for making my example, Ken. Nothing personal, because as I said in the chat when I was talking to you the other day, it's absolutely inconsequential to me whether or not you want to progress in an understanding of science or not. You know, you saying that you do understand it when I can't progress if you just insist that you do, but you obviously don't because you haven't understood the point if you're putting microwaves to me. I can't help you. You know, I couldn't move on, and I took about 10 minutes trying to just get you to say yes or no in regards to whether or not you understood the point of science. So, you know, that's 10 minutes wasted for me in chat. But there we go. I asked everybody to back off us when we were doing that back and forth, Ken, and they did. So thank you to everyone who was in that chat that just left us to it, including Brian, surprisingly. Mind, one spirit. Nice to have you in the chat. Good to see you all. Bev as well, I didn't say hello. Nice to see you in the chat as well, Bev. Good to have you. Steve, nice to see you. Steve Bowman. INFE, nice to have you in the chat. Good to see you all. I'm not reading your comments. I should really. I'll get better at this. A man like me says, yeah. See, well worth reading.
Mic check. Good morning.
Hey, Chocolate, good to have you.
What's up, Chocolate?
Afternoon, guys.
Good
What's
afternoon.
up, Adam?
Yo.
Ken says, Nathan told me he wouldn't answer my question after I said what the scientific method was. Then instead of answer, I have to answer more questions. What was the point of service? I don't really understand the end bit, but yeah, sometimes the way I talk to people, Ken, when I'm trying to lead them, is I ask them questions to try and get them to move the conversation along with an answer that you give. Because once you've given the answer, as opposed to me just telling you, often when I do that, if I just tell people, and to be perfectly frank, Ken, I did tell you in multiple ways in the conversation that we had, but because you weren't telling me the answer directly to my question or admitting that you didn't know the answer, you didn't understand that I was putting that to everybody. And like I say, I thank the people in the chat, because lots of people in that particular chat wanted to jump in and go, yeah, he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand science. He doesn't understand that it's poison. The point of it is proving the cause and effect observed in nature, in this case, boiling. Everyone just laid off you and let you, drag the conversation out by, not playing along. So yeah, when I go, what's the point of science? What's it achieving? I need an answer for me to then, potentially ask you another question, Ken. But that's just how I do business. Sorry.
Sounds like he still don't know what the scientific method is if he's defending his actions from the chat.
If nothing else, he made a good example for me here today, so I can only thank him for that, right? 2Wolves77 says, hi, FED. Good to see you all. Smash the super chat. Please share the show. Takes like 2 clicks to share the show. 80 plus people watching, but good to get to up to 100 before we round out this live show. So we have got a couple of videos that we're going to cover. Both of them have been provided by Brian, but we're going to do the one that I'm better at than the one that he's better at, because I'll just probably do a poor job if I do the one that's about rum lines. So we'll leave that one for Brian when he's around. But this one, on the other hand, does Earth's rotation affect airplanes, speed, and flight times? We'll discuss it before we get into it, but I will do the usual YouTube stuff and ask you to please go and let this videographer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So as is always the case, I'll do a little spiel here to actually let you go and click on that link that's appearing in the live stream right now and let New Horizon TV know that we have covered their video in regards to essentially Coriolis effect, but does Earth's rotation affect the airplane's speed and flight time? Because they're going to give us an answer. Regardless, I'm going to give an answer preemptively before we even hit play. But please let them know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. The idea being that should they respond to my video in this respect, they would put a link to us, Flat Earth Debate, this particular show, in their video, helping us along in the algorithmic love where we have helped them by sending people to comment and view and like and do all those YouTube things that help them along in the algorithm. So hopefully they'd do the same for us and anybody else who responds to the videos that we do about them. Hopefully they would put a link to my video were they to respond. Anyway, hopefully that's given you enough time to go and put a little comment on their video before we do this response, and hopefully you'll all toddle your way along back when we click play. Go on, whoever it was from G+.
I'm still wondering how a microwave artificially heating water debunks heat causing water to boil.
You've got to understand the mechanism and what you're trying to achieve, i.e. achieve the cause of water boiling. by varying something that you think is going to cause water to boil and seeing if it causes it to boil or not.
Yeah, but artificially heating using microwaves, that's not really, you're not going to be able to fit that into the scientific method, I don't think.
Really? They're still doing that?
Yes, yeah, they are, yeah.
Really?
It was an oven, now it's a microwave, yes.
Oh my God. Like, come on, man. Y'all really stuck on that point?
Do you want to know
How the
why?
hell are those people supposed to progress
Well, there's a
when
reason.
you want to be stuck on that? Like, that's crazy to me.
The reason they're stuck on it is because of a conversation that was had by Betty Van Velsen and Quantum Eraser about 7 years ago. And Betty, I think it might have even been in a debate with someone else. I can't remember the exact circumstances that this conversation came up about, but this is how the general conversation, from what I understand, took place. Betty puts forward an argument about cause and effect, with water being the example. Boiling, cause heat. And between the two of them, they said this could be refined. Let's refine it and include the control variables. Now, if you're in the know, then control variables isn't going to make your antenna prick up. But if you're not in the know, you might hear that term and go, control variables? Controls, surely. No, control variables. That is to say something that could vary, but you are going to keep under control, right? Now, keeping the pressure the same in the case of that particular experiment, if you're going to put it into a hypothesis and then cause and affect it, or you do an experiment, heat the water up, right, boil the water, then you can also state, to be hyperspecific, what all the controls will be. Well, at 1 atmospheric pressure, as much as the term's a bit of an oxymoron, it is a technical term, and you can define the controls within that statement. Well, when you define the controls, you also define the point of variable in terms of what we arbitrarily ascribe on a scale to the concept of temperature, and then say that it will boil at a given arbitrarily ascribed number, 100 degrees, at 1 atmospheric, control variable declared, alongside the most important part of the actual explanation. Now, have I gone into great detail and excluded the cause and effect relationship in what I just did? Yep. Why? Because that's the problem. That is what they focus on. The controls. What's the cause and effect relationship? Who gives a crap about the controls? That's being put in to stop idiots trying to call out some external, extraneous variable that's going to vary when you don't declare that you're holding things constant. That is control variables. The overall point is cause and effect assertion through variation of a presumed cause to induce the effect observed in nature of water boiling. That's what you're actually doing. The 1 atmosphere, 100 degrees, none of it's relevant. All that matters is what caused it to go blah, 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 get very steamy. Heat. That's what. You boil it, you put heat on it, and then it goes like that. So if you're trying to find out why that hot spring's doing the same thing, it's because it's hot. You've caused and affect it with science. What's that? But if you put it in a microwave, yeah, that's going to really help when you stumble across a hot spring and go, I wonder why that happened. Because that's the point of science.
Okay, Nathan. Then I will say I have to agree with you 100%.
Of course,
and
because I'm right.
Because we are talking about the effect, and it doesn't matter how you get it. It's the heat is causing it. Yes. Then you can talk about the pressure. Yeah, pressure is making something heating up. Pressure can make something heating up. So in the end, it's the heat that is causing water boiling. So absolutely correct. That's it. And,
well, yeah, there's a better word. Let me just give you a better word, Johnny. Yes, I'm agreeing with you. You've got to stop talking, though. Otherwise, it becomes a shit show real quick. I'm going to respond. No, he's not going to do it. I'm going to close the line and get accused of being the person that mutes people. Yeah, I have, because I'm going to respond to him and just not let him stutter and stammer through the top of the response. Yes, Johnny, I'm agreeing with you. It's just got a better word. Antecedent. There must be gas pressure in existence for you to have this effect demonstratable. In other words, you've got to be in some form of a pressurized system to boil liquid water. Yeah, correct. It's an antecedent. You've got to have gas pressure.
I'll just say, because it's like people don't understand you. Maybe they have to listen to me talking very simple, bad English that they can understand.
I love it. I love your sense of humour. That was brilliant. Hopefully, some of the audience picked up on that. If not, rewind. Very good, Johnny. Yes, I'm glad you're here. Over to you, Arthur.
I didn't get the joke. I'm sorry.
That was the perfect response. Excellent. Well, moving on. So, Coriolis effect. We're going to cover a little bit of this video. I don't know how much. It's probably only a few. Yeah, it's only 3 minutes long. Doesn't surprise me. Okay. Would the rotation of the Earth affect aeroplane speed and flight time? Yeah, it would, because there's claimed to be Coriolis deflection. Earth is claimed to have an effect that is only induced as Earth turns underneath as a non-inertial turning reference frame. That is to say, as you turn underneath things, it is claimed that you will observe them take a curved path when in reality they're travelling straight. That is to say, Earth's turning underneath them to induce that Coriolis effect that Earth's claimed to have. So Earth must be turning under planes for Earth to have Coriolis effect. That's the effect. Would it affect flight times? Absolutely, without question. If Earth's turning underneath them, it's going to affect their flight times. Do we have flight times affected by Earth turning underneath, whoever's ruining the punchline? No, we do not have Earth turning underneath aeroplanes, as is claimed to be the case. It's claimed, Earth as a ball, to have Coriolis. It doesn't. Earth's not turning underneath aeroplanes. So regardless of what they say in this outcome, the globe Earth claims to have Coriolis, that's Earth turning underneath stuff, for it to have an illusion of drift when none occurs. And that would affect flight times, simple as. It just doesn't, because Earth isn't turning underneath Jack. Earth isn't turning. Go ahead, Mr. Interrupter.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to rumpus your point. I was just going to kind of add on to it because we all know what we're about to be told in this video. These effects, these circumstances that we're told we're crazy for not believing in will have no effect. And we're going to be told, oh, we could just pretend or act as though the Earth doesn't have any of these effects and we could just act accordingly. While simultaneously, they tell us we are forced to believe this crap. We all know that's what we're about to hear right now.
Oh, well, we know what your money's on. You think that they're going to go with the anti-flat Earth apologetics for why we don't see any deviation in aeroplanes. That would be to say, take an anti-flat Earth stance that defies the claim that we actually have Coriolis deviation, Earth turning underneath objects in an inertial reference frame that are travelling straight but seem to curve because Earth turns underneath them. You're saying they're going to apologise for why that doesn't happen. They could, I know your money's on that, go the other way and actually fall in line with the rhetoric and say, of course Earth turns underneath aeroplanes and does affect them. That's the rhetoric, isn't it?
Well, that's the latitude-based Coriolis, isn't it? The one that, as they travel north or south from the equator, the rotation of the Earth as they change their latitude will cause a deflection.
That's globiolis. That's an actual induced deflection as you change your claim to be speed of Earth turning underneath with the winds being projected on top of that globe, contravening the effect, but still leaving a minor deviation to be corrected because it's actually causing the plane to take a curved path, which would have to be corrected by the pilot. That's globiolis effect.
See,
Can you say something about it?
Globiolis, it's using latitude. It's using latitude. It can't be globiolis.
Is there a third option?
Coriolis and Blue Marble Science. He said he's flying the airplane and there is some forces that he have to take into account. In the same time, he's flying through the air. And I was talking with him about it several times. Now he's hiding because they know better now. So we are making some effort, and I think I made some effort against him at least. And because there's
clarify what
no
you just
question
said?
about it.
Sorry, let me just clarify what you've just said. You've just said you were chatting with Blue Marble Science, who claimed to be a pilot who flew And as a result of his flight, he would make corrections.
He claimed they have been flying, and he said he have to take in account the Coriolis effect, and that is a force.
Okay, so he's as dumb as Wolfie 6020.
Really?
Okay. Let me just boil him in with the same pot as Wolfie 6020. So he is as stupid as Wolfie 6020. The claim to be Coriolis effect is only, I repeat, only capable of observation from the ground if you are turning on the ground you stand. Then, and only then, as an observer standing on the ground that is rotating, exampled by you standing on a roundabout / merry-go-round, that's the only time you can observe this effect. Because the effect is an illusion of curve where none occurs. Now, that illusion is an optical effect observed from you on a turning reference frame. You seeing things do what they don't really do because you're turning. So, to be a pilot...
Because you're... Yeah, okay.
I'm nearly there. To be a pilot, as Wolfie 6020 has done, ground control to Major Clown Show. There is a man observing you from a merry-go-round. Please make micro-adjustments in the flight immediately. Hey, no worries, it's Wolf 6020 here, geezer. I've got all the switches and dials I need to make that correction for the illusion the man on the roundabout seeing. I will make those corrections immediately. Yet Wolfie 6020 and Blue Marble Science are stupid enough to claim they correct for an illusion. Very, very stupid. Wolfie 6020 is idiotic, as is now I find out Blue Marble Science while I get rumpus from the person who gave us the example. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Johnny.
Just saying, but they are silenced now. I think they know better, and every time I'm in the same chat room, and Blue Marble Science now, he disappeared because he knows what I will take up. Absolutely, this topic, and he is absolutely going away. And I promise you, they know better now.
No, I know he does. He actually paid me. Wolfie 6020 gave me money on one of my campaigns specifically for educating him in regards to his misapprehensions and stupidity that he could correct for an illusion on his plane. What an idiot.
There's no way from this. You know, it's absolutely like it is. We have absolutely let them understand. And the people that's really thinking about this and know what they are talking about. I'm not talking about people that is coming into it now. It's so tiresome to start over, and there are people that are still talking bullshit, of course. I don't know what they're talking about. But the people that we have been fighting through, they really understand now how wrong they have been. And Coriolis is just from a non-inertia to inertia. That is... you need two reference frames, and everything bending away from you in a bending pattern. If you are on a rotating Earth, of course, we aren't on the rotating Earth, and we are not seeing anything bending or reflecting or whatsoever away from us in the sky. That's not happening.
Imagine how hilarious it is. The fact that what you said before, Nathan, they're correcting for an illusion. It's not just they're correcting for an illusion. They're correcting for an illusion that other people are having.
Yeah, on the ground. An illusion from a turning reference frame. The only way the illusion can ever be described is from a person whose eyeballs are on a turning reference frame. But yeah, Wolfie 6020 was stupid enough to declare that he corrects for that. But like I say, he paid me. He gave me money. You know, he was very grateful. And yeah, I mean, now he's been educated by me, the flat earther, about his abject stupidity and his assumptions that he's got a Coriolis correcting button because people from the ground see an illusion in his plane, as Earth is claimed to have. I mean, we don't have that illusion, and he certainly doesn't have any Coriolis correction buttons in his plane. Stupid idiot, Wolfie 6020. But Blue Marble too, by the sounds of things. But now they know better, and have paid me subsequently for that knowledge that they have received from me, the flat earther, educating their stupid dumbasses about correcting for Coriolis that we don't even see from the ground. Earth isn't turning. There is nothing to correct for.
Maybe they got a fancy plane like Airwolf or something.
But guys, can I ask you? I don't see them anymore so much around. They are not doing so much anymore. I'm right about that, right?
No, after he paid me, Wolfie6020 just disappeared into obscurity. You know, it must have been so embarrassing to be corrected by a flat earther about a Coriolis illusion correction button that he doesn't have on his aeroplane that he was claiming to use. You know, that's embarrassing. So I'm not surprised he isn't appearing much on the scene after I humiliated the guy. Why would you?
There you have it. There's no question about it.
Maybe he'll get in touch and share his pain with me. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe someone will let him know and he'll choose to share that pain again. Maybe he'll give me more money. Who knows? We'll see.
I hope so.
Anyway, so let's have a listen to this video. Right, let's get into it. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
Earth rotates.
No, it doesn't.
Rotates eastward, but
No, Earth's stationary. We'd see some effects if that was the case.
does it affect the speed of the airplanes or other flying objects? Does it speed up or slow down airplanes flying westward or east?
It would if we had Coriolis effect, as we're claimed to have on a turning Earth that we don't experience.
Eastward. It appears that airplanes, flying westward, in the opposite direction of the Earth's spin,
There is no Earth spin.
move faster than airplanes, flying eastward, in the direction of the Earth's spin.
Oh, you see, chocolate. They're claiming a differential. They're claiming one's going faster than the other.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think you owe me £1.
But actually, it does not happen.
Damn! Double or nothing.
Well, actually.
I do love my job.
In fact, the airplanes flying in the eastward direction receive a booster, which will be explained at the end of this video.
Really? See, we've had globe Earth in numpties. In fact, chocolate, this is your example. Then. Why am I taking your thunder? You regale us with the example where, what? One is going slightly faster. Oh, we're not going to get it.
You can do it if you want. I'm a little busy right now.
No, fair enough. So right, based on the example that's just been given on screen, right? One proponent of the globe put it to us that example proved that we've got a deflection. That is to say that the Earth is turning underneath the plane. Until Chocolate pointed out, well, but the plane that you're exempling with the differential that you've looked up on the charts based on their flight times that are published would put the Earth spinning in the opposite direction if that's the influencer. If that's shortening the flight times, Earth spinning the wrong way. You stupid numpty.
As the Earth spins, everything inside, on the surface, in oceans, and even the air also moves.
That completely contrasts the claims that you can have deflection experienced in footballs made by Neil deGrasse Tyson, though, doesn't it? Yeah? In fact, it defies the entire rhetoric of Coriolis deflection, because in order for you to observe the Coriolis effect that is claimed to be observable on Earth, things have got to be in different reference frames. That's a prerequisite for the effect. And Earth, I assure you, is claimed to have a Coriolis effect. We don't have one. There is no effect. And what this will be in reality is correct. Chocolate got it. £1. You are owed. You bet right. It's going to be mitigation for why we don't see it.
Earth completes one rotation around its axis in 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds.
Earth isn't moving. Full stop. Period.
On the surface, the Earth's rotation speed is different across the globe.
What you're showing is the path of the sun's light in terms of the area that it actually illuminates. That doesn't actually give you a turning Earth.
At the equator, the rotation speed is much...
Equator? That's a familiar term. You mean the minimum elevation angle measurement by extrapolation of the measurement off a flat plane to Polaris receding towards an area where you would infer that it disappears? An arbitrary line on a flat plane. That equator. See, that equator, the description itself can only be working with a flat plane, because that's what it is. It's a measurement of a flat plane with Polaris. So how can you be describing what will happen at a point on a flat plane? Minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris? Earth's measured flat, for you to even say that word.
faster, 1,600 kilometers per hour.
No, definitely not. you're inferring a distance of a trajectory of a ground when you've got a light moving over you. That's what you're doing. Doesn't mean Earth spins, it doesn't spin. We'd have an effect called Coriolis, as is claimed to be the case, and we don't.
And as you get closer to the poles, the rotation speed gets
Poles? Where's John?
slowed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
I was going to say the poles that he's talking about are also measured from a flat plane because Polaris and the Sigma Tantus is supposedly 90 degrees above said pole.
Somebody rumpused you right at the key moment. Earth's measured flat. The inference of a polar system, axial system, requires a flat plane. Do you want to just try that once more, John? I think someone rumpused you.
Yeah, the Polaris and Sigma Tantus are supposedly 90 degrees above said poles, which is measured from a flat plane, not a curve.
Boom. You're going to need a flat Earth for that. I mean, we've already kind of within 1 minute of the video heard what they're doing. Chocolate was right. They're trying to mitigate for why we don't observe any effects. Ergo, we don't observe any differences in flights beyond the, the jet stream that would give you a bit of a bump, as they call it, a boost. But beyond that, no, there is no difference because they're not experiencing Coriolis effect. Nobody's observing planes from the ground going, wow, look at that plane drifting. And the guy next to them saying, oh, yeah, it's just us turning underneath on a turning Earth. Yeah, that doesn't happen because it doesn't happen, but it's claimed to happen. That's Coriolis effect. We just don't have that effect. We'll listen to a little bit more, but I don't think we need any more than them saying Earth and atmosphere travel together. They've already given their mitigation, right, Chocolate?
Yes, sir.
If Earth and atmosphere travel together...
I was going to say that.
Well, you should have done. It would have been a worthy interruption, unlike that one.
I was going to say, yes, sir. I figured Chocolate was busy. I was going to fill in for him.
The moment they claim Earth and atmosphere move together, there's no effect to observe. So what effect? So the football, the sniper, we don't observe those effects then. All travelling together, then we're not going to see Earth travelling underneath a sniper's bullet for them to account for it. We're not going to have Neil deGrasse Tyson's example of a football going through the goalpost because Earth turned underneath it then. Yeah, those crappy examples that are only in the air for 2 minutes, or 2 seconds in the case of a bullet, maybe 4 seconds at a long distance. Yeah? Those tiny little distances and tiny little times give them the window of opportunity to claim Earth's turning underneath bullets and footballs, but it also turned under aeroplanes, something that you're now mitigating for by pissing in the face of a Coriolis deviation that is claimed to be an Earth-based effect that we simply don't see. What's that I can hear in the distance? Can anyone hear that? You and your reference frames are ruined. Oh, thanks, Simon Dan. That's correct. There are no reference frames to give us a Coriolis effect on a turning Earth. Well done, Simon Dan. You can pay me like Wolfie6020 did later for the education you've received. Hey, Wolfie, your Coriolis button's right.
Everything on the Earth is moving with it at the same speed.
So no effect to observe then. How are you going to prove returning? Yeah, their mitigation is an anti-flat Earth rhetoric that flies in the face of a claim to be Coriolis deviation. For us to see this deviation, Earth must be turning underneath an inertial reference frame. That's how the effect works. You turn underneath stuff that flies straight, but seems to curve because you turn underneath it. That's what the globe Earth is claimed to do. Meanwhile, this guy, oh, it's all moving at the same rate, Earth and atmosphere. Really? See, that's interesting. So these are clouds, right? I know it's not by scale, but let's just have a closer look at this diagram the guys put up. This is claimed to be Earth, and this black area is claimed to be a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum, the most powerful vacuum known to man. More powerful because we can only achieve 10 to the minus 6 with 6 foot thick walls here on Earth. When we're talking vacuums, this area, diagrammatically cartoonified, is the outer space we all know and love that doesn't exist in reality because these clouds, that'd be high pressure gas, would dissipate into the area of volume known as a vacuum instantaneously. But yet you're saying not only are the gases we all love breathing not flying off into a sky vacuum, these clouds are not only not violating the second law of thermodynamics, but they're also violating the first law of thermodynamics. So if this Earth's turning, let's just pretend for a second that the direction of turn in this claim bullshit Earth, where Earth and atmosphere move together, we're going to have the turn go this way. We're going to go anti-clockwise for my example. Nice, so it's easy with gaps in where I'm showing you. This cloud, right, is above the actual claim to be body of rotation. Therefore, for it to continue at the same rate as this, that's the cloud, keep up with the rate of the ground below it, it would have to be at an increased radial velocity with respect to the ground. Let me break down what I mean. If this ground is moving at X rate, then as you go out and increase the circumferential value, the rate, the distance that that cloud is now travelling is greater than the distance below it on the ground. Ergo, this cloud, in this example, has to increase its velocity with respect to the ground to stay perfectly in relation to the ground whilst not dispersing into a sky vacuum. That is to say, this mitigation for a non-Coriolis-based globe Earth violates both the first law of thermodynamics, because the clouds have to increase in velocity, increase their energy with respect to the ground that they're keeping in lockstep with, and the second law of thermodynamics, because this is a gas not dispersing into space. I thank you. I'm done with this video.
Is he ever going to give his claim of what Coriolis effect is observed? Because he's only, like you said, give mitigations. Is he ever going to make a claim then?
No, that's not the game of this game. This game is chocolate. Chocolate got it. It's mitigation. Why don't we see planes drifting? That's what this video is. Why don't we see the effect?
Okay.
Go, Johnny, go.
If you will jump up from the truck, you're behind the car or the truck is driving. How long can it be in the air before the truck will drive away from you? Or how high you can jump before the car or the truck will drive away from you?
Yeah, that's a good example. So what you're saying is, right, so you're in an open-top convertible car with no windscreen and you sat in the seat. So obviously as you traverse the ground at 60 miles per hour, you're pushed into the back of the seat at 60 miles per hour. As the car is travelling, your passenger gets onto the back of the headrest and perches like an eagle on the headrest of the passenger seat while he's basically in the air holding on for dear life. Now, a given moment, this person clamped onto the headrest in a convertible car with no windscreen, jumps in the air. According to this rhetoric that has a first law of thermodynamics violation, that person, when they jump in the air, will track with the car.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, whilst above it. But it's worse because this is a radial-based system with a turning Earth. When you have anything above that value, the radial value's increased, which means that the velocity must increase to track with the ground below. That's a straight-up first law of thermodynamics violation. So at that point, I'm giving up on this video. It's utter nonsense. The mitigation violates two natural laws.
First of all,
you're traveling at 60 miles per hour. You're not accelerating. You're at a fixed speed. So if you jumped in the back, like if you're in the back of a truck and driving down the road and you toss a baseball up, right, it'll come right back down in your hand, as Simon Dan demonstrated in that video where he's traveling along with the guy on the trampoline. The problem is it's the Earth is claimed to be curving in their rhetoric, so that's a constant acceleration. So you would see the car leave them if it accelerates. So if they start jumping and the car hits the gas and goes to 90 miles an hour, then they would fly.
Okay. So the car is a convertible with no windscreen. There's a guy perched on the passenger seat holding on for dear life, and they are on a ring road.
Oh, he's in trouble. Yeah.
Okay, all of this is mere mitigation, though. So Simon Dan's example, where he's got a guy on a trampoline being towed with a windbreak, essentially stopping any resistance, blowing the guy off course as he jumps up and down. It's an example akin to John's example with a guy tossing a baseball up and down in the back of a cab of a truck, right? Yeah. Okay, fine. Yes, that example is wonderful for showing how you can stop the effects in a closed system. How's that going to give you an example of Earth turning and a proof that we do? Oh, my bad. It's Coriolis deflection. That would be to say tossing the ball up in the air in a straight line. That is to say the ball leaves your hand and goes up and down and lands on the ground. But what do you know? Because you're travelling along in a truck, it looks like it curves out of your hand and curves to the ground. But if you actually look at what it does, it just goes up and down. Yeah, that's a form of Coriolis deflection, the illusion of the curve that you see from the back of the truck as the ball curves out of your hand, lands on the motorway. It looks like it curved away from you. No, it just went up and down. Well, by that contrast, Earth is claimed to have the same effect. Stuff goes into the air, and because the ground turns underneath the item, like a football or a sniper's bullet, it's claimed to have Coriolis deflection, an illusion of the bullet taking a curved path because Earth turns underneath the bullet. That's the claim. But if Earth turns underneath gunfire and Earth turns underneath footballs, a la Neil deGrasse Tyson, then Earth turns under hot air balloons and aeroplanes, shortening their flight times when travelling west. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would only take an hour and a half because Earth would be turning underneath it, to give the guy on the ground the illusion that the plane's taking a curved path when it's really just travelling straight. It's just you turning underneath the aeroplane to give you Coriolis deflection illusions that ground control can tell Wolfie about. Right, we're going to round out.
Well,
Any more points?
This rhetoric again and again. I have a new rhetoric. I have a new thing to say.
Go on, Johnny. Let's
Just give
hear
me
it.
a fucking time. Oh, sorry, I was no swearing. What I'm trying to say is, yes, they're saying that we will follow because everything is moving, and then you will follow the movement because you're in the same speed. No, of course you're not in the same speed. Directly after you jump up, you will not be in the same speed. It will be less speed, very, 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 very fast. How long do you think, or how far do you think you can jump off from the truck before you will be very, very behind the truck if the truck is speeding and you're just in the air? It's just, you can just jump few inches, feet that you are able to do. If you jump just a little bit higher, you will go out of the truck flag. Absolutely. That's what this is about. So they are saying that the atmosphere is following the rotation of the Earth. But in the same time, they are saying we have a dynamic system with different wind system in different directions. That's absolutely impossible if it is a uniform movement with Earth movement, and the atmosphere is moving with it. And at the same time, they are saying it is a dynamic system that's going in all directions. It's absolutely crazy. It's just like they have no fucking things
No swearing.
Again.
That's right. Your sentiment's spot on, though, Johnny, which is to say it's a straight-up first law and second law of thermodynamics violation. If you've got a non-dispersing gas into a vacuum and a gas that's traversing the ground to keep up with it in lockstep at a higher rate than the ground is actually spinning and accelerating, you've got a straight-up first and second law of thermodynamics violation. You're right.
Yeah, it cannot be in lockstep.
No.
Like they are trying to say. It's impossible.
Further to that, being in lockstep is a mitigation for the effect they claim we observe. They say we see Coriolis deflection. Bullets, balls, doesn't matter who you're going to reference, snipers, or Tyson with his football example. That's Earth turning underneath the football, according to him. Well, if Earth turns under footballs, it turns under drones, it turns under snipers, it turns under hot air balloons, it turns under you if you jump up and down, it turns under aeroplanes. But here we are, we're looking at a video where they mitigate for why it does not turn underneath aeroplanes by saying Earth and atmosphere violate the first and second law of thermodynamics.
A problem. There's a problem. It's the most nonsensical thing in the world.
After they get you to accept the problem that's not a problem because of the mitigation, then they're going to use a flat Earth and latitude to say that the effect does exist, and you just have to look at it at a larger scale.
Yeah, and I have to say, it's not
so
only
that the problem stops being a problem. Sorry,
I'm just saying it's not only Houston that has a problem nowadays. Everybody has a problem in the globe fantasies.
I mean, that's why nowadays it's easy to call, man. Well, of course, we're going to tell you that the Earth's rotating and doing this, that, and the third, but that you expect these things to happen? Why would you expect that? That's not a problem. We just told you why the problem we have is not a problem. Why would you expect it to be a problem? Even though we just pointed out how it's a problem, and then we solved the problem that wasn't a problem in the first place because we just made it up.
But I want to ask them, why is this not a problem? Why is it not a problem? That is a problem for me to understand that they don't understand it is a problem. They are in a big problem. Of course they are. They are in a lockstep of the fucking. I'm swearing again.
Please stop swearing.
It's
insanity.
It's a problem that's so dire that what we need to do is give elite pilots like Wolfie and Blue Marble Science, Hillbilly Blue Balls, or whatever his name is, right? We give them special buttons in their cockpits to correct for illusions that other people are having on the ground as they fly above them.
I'm not joking. He is hiding for me in the chat room, and he's there. And he knows I'm there. He is not coming into the chat room, and he disappeared very, very fast. But we are friends. We can talk, but he knows he has lost this argument. He don't want me to take it up. That's the problem.
Maybe he's going to take a picture of the Coriolis button that he's got in his plane, and he's going to send it to you. He's busy doing that. Give him some time.
We were talking. Yeah, okay. We were talking about that 2 years ago or something. Therefore, many things have changed from that. So it's amusing that we are winning, but it's getting very, very hard, and we are very, very hard against each other also. I like it. Of course, maybe Nathan can relax just a little bit. But
I mean,
anyways.
you have to forgive him a bit. I mean, he is the guy that proved that you can have gas pressure without a container using 3 containers. So, give him a chance.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my best for everybody, but in the end, that everybody understand, and we are living on a absolutely flat topographical plane, and every fucking measurement is everything is measured flat, and you cannot make any navigation or whatsoever. We try to, I can say whatsoever, but navigation absolutely is done by flat measurements. There's no way nobody can say anything against it. It's just like it is.
Yeah, I agree.
And I was trying to talk about that the other day, what circular equal altitude means. It's a 360 degrees around the GP with equal altitude to the surface. What's that?
Flat Earth.
Everybody, somebody.
Flat Earth,
What's that? Equal altitude to the surface. What's that?
same elevation,
Over
flat.
1,000.
Flat.
It is flat. There's no way from it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And
just
I don't know for you, being an ex-captain or, you know, of that ilk, if that's been your starting point until now, or have you found yourself arguing how the world isn't a globe rather than leaning on what you know to be true based on what you've actually done? How have you progressed through this discussion, Johnny? Is it always debunking globe?
I don't have to debunk globe at all. I can just say I don't have to do it. I just have to say how it is done. There's no answer. Everything will follow itself.
Sorry, Johnny, but I think this is the third time Johnny's come in and he wants to push this circle of equal altitude because that makes Earth flat for thousands and thousands of miles. I think he's right.
He is right.
I am right.
He is right, yeah.
I know. I remember when 10th first leaked it out, when he broke down that circle of equal altitude and did it with the 3 boats and the plotting stars and how flat and it's such a great distance of flat, it was blowing me away.
But no, Neil, think about it. Some of these guys will tell you the sun will start setting in 3 miles away from it.
Okay, guys. I love you say that. Now I have to give you a very, very new argument. That's you never take off. If somebody says, but about the sunset and the sunrise, then the answer is in north and over about 3 months. Then you have sun circle above your head, and you can see the sun go around you in a pattern. And it's not rising or setting anywhere. And do you think just because it's going right the circle, the equator, then it starts setting or rising? No, it's just perspective of a long distance. But if you're in the north, smaller circle, and you can see the sun go around you, it's not setting or rising. That's the answer.
Well, the thing is, sunset and sunrise is a rhetorical device to describe the elevation angle of the sun as it relates to the horizon.
Yeah, but you can say, but it's not doing that in north because of 24-hour sunlight. 24-hour sunlight in the summer month. Just think about it. Then you can see the pattern of the sun. Do you think the sun is changing pattern just because it's getting in the bigger circle? Of course not.
Well, how does the elevation angle of the sun, which requires a flat Earth to measure, help them in any argument at all?
It doesn't.
So when they talk about sunrise and sunset, you need a flat Earth to describe that.
John, I know you're very, very intelligent. I have to talk with John about this. It's very, very important argument. The sun, the 24-hour sun in north, is not rising or setting. You can see it all the time. And of course, it goes in the bigger circle. It's because of perspective then. It's not changing, it's not setting or rising. That is the argument against all of this talking point. That is the 24-hour sun in north.
Right, so the elevation angle of the sun in northern latitudes never goes below your 0 degree.
Never. It's all above your head.
That's still required. Right. But that still requires a flat plane to even use that.
It needs, yeah.
You there, Adam? Do you remember doing that? When we had a guy who did that for us live? Really not. We did a tracking the sun exercise when I first got here, Johnny, and one of the participants who was in the north during a period where it was 24-hour sun periodically would tune in and show us obviously the sun above the horizon for the entirety of the time that he was there. So the sun never went down, like they claim happens in Antarctica, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and we can say that I know about this from 64 degrees and to 66 degrees north. That I know of.
But how does the elevation angle of the sun never going below your 0 degree marker, which required a flat plane, even if you're in Antarctica and you see it, how does that help you believe you live on a globe if that's a flat plane measurement? I still don't see how that helps them.
Okay, okay, but we have to give answer, and the answer is the bigger circle. The sun is a lighter circle. The sun is on, then it's going faster. It's no question about it. But it has the same angular moment. That it has the same angular momentum. It can be the 50 degrees, but it's going faster if the circle is bigger. That is.
I'm not saying your answer is wrong, but why are you giving it? Why are you giving it at that point? Why are you giving an answer? I ain't saying it's wrong, but if their concept and their argument is dependent upon a flat plane, why do you have to explain it? I don't see what you're saying.
They're saying is that but they are saying that they can see the same thing from different. They are not facing in the same facing. They are not looking in the same direction, but can see the same thing. That is very, very crazy statement. It's because the stars and the sun is moving and it's going from one direction. They're not seeing the same thing in the same time. That's not true. That's just a fabrication. That's not true. But there is something else also. We are talking about the daylight and twilight. What's that? Yeah, there is. I'm not saying it is, but we have to look into it. It's there is possibilities of light is going around the end of the sun circle because of some kind of dome possibilities. That can
right, but
give a coffee cup caustic. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying we have to look into that also. There might be some like that, but we don't have any proof, or I'm not be able to look it up if there is really so much daylight in Antarctica shoreline wrecking.
Why are you giving them a false dichotomy to argue with, though? I don't understand that. Like, if they're talking about an elevation angle of the sun in Antarctica never reaching below, they're still talking about a flat plane. Why argue with them about it? Okay, well, you're using a flat Earth for that elevation angle. Full stop.
I maybe don't have to talk about it, but there is some questions there that have to be answered. That's all. But it will not change after we are living on a flat plane. All the measurement has told us so, and just because we need answer about this, because we have to be able to make some observation and clarification in this area. That's all. Yeah, but. Yeah, I am. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're not so right. But we have to be able to say something, and we have to say why we. But it can be. But we really want to look into it.
I don't have to replace their fairy tale story that they also cannot prove to be correct. Why would I have to replace their story?
They
sounds like
they're
you're
not
trying to
listening
give
to
them another
arguments like
paradigm.
that. They really want to get answer, and we can give them possibilities, but we can also say, but it has to be looked into. But there's possibilities there. Why not tell them about the possibilities? Do you think that is wrong to do that?
Well, when you give it as an explanation, and they find out that your explanation fails, then what?
Yeah, but possibilities is possibilities. I'm not saying this. There is possibilities, and something has to be looked in, and then I can give them some possibilities of my understanding of it. I don't think that's wrong.
Looking into it is fine, obviously, right? But if somebody gave the both of us a story that neither of us can prove, and now I've moved on from believing in said story, why do I now need to replace the story that I no longer believe and you cannot prove? Why should I replace that story for you when we were both told the same story?
I'm not replacing. There is no story about it. It's a new understanding of and logic understanding, and that we have so far. That's all. We are not saying it is, but there's absolutely possibilities. It can be something like that. That's nothing wrong. That is just. But you are absolutely have to be clear. It is because of this, because of this logic, because of. This is meeting and this and that. It can be like something like that. That's what they're saying. People like discussion like that. People really want that. They will not just say, because I don't know, then I don't want to talk about it. People don't like it. You have to be able to give them some kind of understanding.
No, I don't.
Yeah, but
I agree with. I agree.
Do you think it is really wrong?
I agree with John that in a conversation with a Glober, we do not really need to give any explanation. But John, what if we are not looking at it from the point of view of giving any explanation to anyone, just trying to find out the answer for ourselves? In that case, why does parallax's calculation of distance to the sun fail actually? What is the problem in his method? That is exactly what I wanted to know. Because his method is pretty simple.
Parallax to the sun is very, very complicated. That's a big question for me. It's a big question for me. Very, very hard to understand.
Just let someone else answer then.
That's fine. If you want to contemplate these things, do that. And if you want to speculate with people, that's fine, as long as you preface it with speculation and wonder. That's great. That's what it's all about, really, right? But when you say you have an explanation, you are putting yourself in a very precarious position. So I would be careful about saying that. You have a speculation. You don't have an explanation.
In this case, it's not really about an explanation. It's about a claim to the distance, claim of distance to the sun, right? And just to tell about his method, I looked it up quickly in his book, Zetetic Astronomy. He's simply saying that you have to observe a position on the equator, and we know that equator works only on a flat Earth. Maybe Robotham also knew that.
So that's not exactly that we are talking about, my friend. It's not exactly that we are talking about. We are talking about how our behavior. I think I agree. I understand better. If you are in the front line, and in the front line mean that you are talking about that in the open forum, you have to be very, very, very careful. All speculation and claims and so on and so on and so on. You have to hold your straight line that you can hold, not something that you have to juggling about. So, absolutely understand that argument. But if you're not in the front line, of course you can speculate. You can talk about what you want. But if you're really in the forum, and in the public forum of debate or whatsoever it is, then you're not only talking
Gotcha.
for yourself, you're
Gotcha.
you're talking for everybody else. Therefore, you have to be very, very careful and
Gotcha.
not use speculation too much.
Yep.
You have
So
to be
I was
very, very
saying,
clear
let me
as you say.
Okay,
your
Johnny, please,
speculation.
you've got to stop at some point. Thank you.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
yes.
So I was saying, please let me complete, Johnny. So if we are at a position where on the equator where the sun is directly overhead, Robotham says that you simply have to find at what distance from your position on land the angle of elevation to the sun is going to be 45 degrees. Let's take approximations, approximately 45 degree. And at that point, the base is going to be equal to the height of the isosceles triangle, right angled at your position. And by getting an approximation of your distance to the person who is measuring an angle of 45 degree, it is going to be the height of the sun. And doing such measurements, he came to a number of 2,700 miles, which he has written in his book, Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe. So not from the point of view of debating a glober, but simply wondering about this method, what's wrong with it?
Yeah, but the
Nathan,
elevation
I'm
angle has
with
nothing to do with altitude. You don't have to go into the altitude because of the navigation.
He's not.
and
Johnny.
altitude angle.
Johnny.
You
He's
don't have
not. He's not. He's referencing specifically Zetetic Astronomy in terms of his angle measurement and how he extrapolates it out. But you are correct. Also, no, it's got sod all to do with something that's practically applied to our everyday life, and that's elevation angle measurements for navigation, which have nothing to do with the height. You're right. So you're right, but that isn't what he's referencing. He's referencing Robotham.
Yeah, but
Okay.
Robotham is wrong, because what Robotham didn't realize was that if he was in an airplane 6 miles above, then he'd still get the same angles. It doesn't change. The angles don't change with elevation. So how could it be 2,700 miles above him at the equator when if he did the whole process with him in an airplane and 2 airplanes at 45 degrees north and south, he'd still get 45 degrees north and south. Because they just don't adhere to terrestrial measurement in that way. So it's all completely wrong.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
He didn't know that.
Can you clarify that better, John?
It was Brian. You take a measurement of an angle.
Oh, it's Brian.
You take your measurement of, let's say it's the moon. You take your measurement, and then you go up higher. The measurement doesn't change. Now, if it was a physical item at a physical set height, as you would raise in altitude, you'd expect the angle to reduce, wouldn't you? As you approached it, the angle's going to reduce. But that does not happen. It does not alter. The angle remains the same at all elevations.
And the moon is moving all the time, right? So
yeah, but okay, let's try it one more time. I'll just try it once more time. So you are on the ground. You're in your boat in a dinghy, holding a sextant, and you're measuring the moon. Directly above you is a hot air balloon, and it's at its absolute highest it can possibly go. You've got ventilation equipment. You take the same measurement, and you are directly above the dinghy in your hot air balloon. Both get the same measurement of angle.
yes, because you are referring from the flat plane.
Forget where you're referencing. No. Forget everything beyond it. You're just pointing a sextant at the moon in this example. Guy on dinghy, guy in hot air balloon at as high as he can possibly go. Both get the same angle on the sextant. Ergo, is it a given height as laid down in Zetetic Astronomy? Well, no. What do? Do you reduce the height of the guy in the balloon off the height when it's the same? Obviously, it doesn't work in terms of how we would take angle measurements for normal trig when we know the distance or height for a, lighthouse, because we don't know the distance or height to the moon or its actual size. Ergo, we cannot, when the angle remains the same at all altitudes, in any way infer its height, as is done by Zetetic Astronomy.
I cannot use it like that. So
No.
In the scenario that you're talking about, I cannot see I can use it. So, no.
So therefore, Robotham is wrong.
Yeah, correct. Robotham's got it wrong.
Yeah.
Downright shillery, if you ask me.
Got it.
No, he's just
He wouldn't
wrong.
have known
I
any
wouldn't call
better.
it that.
No, I wasn't being genuine. I don't think Robotham's shit.
I was just going to ask, does he not know any better, Brian? Because I'm sure he was a lot smarter than that.
Well, he'd be no, Neil. I mean, if you go back to when it was his time, they didn't have airplanes and bubble sextants and stuff like that. So he may not know. Nobody expected that if he went up in a hot air balloon in his time, if they had them, which they probably did, that nobody was using sextants in that way then. Sextants were purely only a marine instrument, or you know what I mean. I would say I wouldn't even say there couldn't have been like there was for him to come to that judgment. Then there was only marine sextant at the time.
And yes, Brian, you are right. And you know what? Robotham's argument was that if it was a globe, and the sun was 96 million miles away at that time, then he was saying that the base of the equilateral triangle will also have to be 96 million miles. Hence, this false dichotomy he created is wrong. And what he is saying, 2,700 miles, is the correct one. So even Robotham did not know that sextants simply cannot work on a globe. You cannot measure elevation angles with a sextant on a globe at that time. But he seemed to be going along with that false dichotomy.
Well, maybe he was arguing from the point of view of you're moving the angle. The angle you're taking is on a tangent plane, and you're moving it to the center of a globe, something like that. Maybe, because that would have been the same rhetoric. So they would have been using an equatorial plane and a celestial plane. That's the only thing I could think of there. If I wanted to support him.
But it is so obvious. He needs a flat baseline to take the elevation angle to the mountain in the first place. So he started with a flat measurement in the beginning. So I cannot see how it's oxymoron for me. They can make it a globe afterwards.
If I may just put a word in, the height of a star is measured in degrees, in angles, and its at its highest peak, it's 90 degrees.
Yeah, you always need 90 degrees to get the height to the mountain, like he was.
Correct. The height of anything that you are measuring in elevation angles is measured in degrees.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So even when Bev comes in and says it is measuring on the vertical datum, angles, they are measured in degrees, and those degrees they're gonna require a baseline.
Yep.
180, yes. And 180 is also angle, but
he was just
anyways,
talking. Sorry, 1 second, Johnny. He was just talking. That was just such an eloquent summary of Bev's total nonsense. It was excellent. Whoever just said that was great. Jorge.
George.
Yeah. That was epic. It's such a great summary.
Absolutely great. Yes, I agree.
Well, what Bev said is not nonsense.
Guys, we all know.
Oh, Don, we got a Bev sympathizer.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Brian.
No, what I'm saying, no, it's not that I'm disagreeing with George. What I'm saying is that what Bev is saying is coming from surveying. It's surveying rhetoric. But that rhetoric, it's like, if you have a vertical plane, right, a point at a vertical plane, that vertical plane must be referenced to a horizontal plane, because you can't have one without the other. So that vertical plane automatically creates a horizontal plane. So that point that Bev would talk about on a vertical plane is referenced to the horizontal plane that we call mean sea level. It's just but Bev is surveying, so he talks in surveying terms. Go on, Chocolate.
Sorry, Brian. I was just going to say, it's kind of like you put in the little Elon spin on it, right? You can tell it's not flat in reference to how flat it is. That's adorable.
It looks so fucking fake. It has to be right?
Stop swearing, please. Please stop swearing, Johnny.
Shit. Oh, wow.
What Bev is talking is about the benchmark. in any building you're going to do, or any reference you're going to use, you're going to start with a benchmark. So you will want the ground level to be at a certain point, at the ground level. So you're going to use a benchmark, a reference point that everything is going to be measured to in order to start your first level. And then you go above that or below that. But you want the ground level to be at the ground level. So what Bev is talking is about the same thing. Because it is exactly the same thing. The mean sea level is just a benchmark that everything on land, on dry land, that is referred to. But that is from sea level. That's the 0 degree line. Now, we're talking about surveying. Yeah, we're talking about surveying of the land. But if you're going to survey the seas, you're going to start the process, the same process, the other way around. You tie nuts to a rope and you see how deep the sea goes, the seabed goes. Yeah, and that's how the topography of the oceans are, but from the baseline.
Yeah, but you do that also on the land. You also refer to the sea level in so many cases. So that's not, you're not absolutely accurate there. You use sea level in so many other cases. Yes, but if you're just building a house, you don't have to. Maybe don't have to do that. But in the bigger process, yes, you might have to do that. So
sea level is also called Earth's surface. Yeah, we've been ignoring that for quite some time. That's Earth's surface. That's the baseline. That's what we're talking about. That's what gives us the flat plane that we dwell on. It's the surface. So from the surface up and from the surface down, that's the surface. That's the benchmark everyone should be looking at. Because sea level is level all around.
Yeah, it's level, horizontal, and horizontal is level.
Yeah, Earth is flat. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!